Let me start by naming something most people sense but rarely hear explained clearly. Promotion decisions almost never hinge on a single conversation, no matter how well that conversation goes. They happen quietly and often without you in the room when a decision of leaders decides whether saying yes feels responsible or risky. During these conversations, the room is not asking whether you're capable. They assume you are. The real question is whether promoting you makes their lives easier or harder once they leave the room and go back to running the business. I'm Keith, the Leadership Signal Advisor for ambitious tech managers and directors. If you're ready to make your promotion a when, not if, you're in the right place. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the good stuff. If you keep hearing phrases like, let's talk about the promotion next cycle, or you're doing well, keep going, or you might even hear, let's see how this year plays out. But no one can point to a concrete shift that would change the outcome. What's missing usually isn't your effort or your commitment to the work. What's missing is evidence that travels. In this video, I want to give you a clear way to understand how promotion decisions actually get made, so you no longer have to guess and can easily shape the signal leaders rely on when they decide. There are three signals that matter most: scope, story, and spine. And once you see them clearly, you can work with intention instead of hope. Promotion rooms do not sound like career development conversations. They sound more like risk reviews, even when the tone is polite. People are asking questions such as whether they would put you on a critical path for an important initiative, or whether they would feel comfortable if you owned a decision with a real downside, and whether they would regret passing you over compared to the other candidates being discussed. What rarely comes up is how hard you've worked, or how much you really care, or even how much your manager likes you. Those things are table stakes. What matters is whether multiple people in the room can describe your impact in similar terms without coordinating their stories, and whether that description makes a decision feel defensible rather than aspirational. That's what these three signals provide when they're strong. Scope is not about how full your calendar is or how many problems you personally solve. It's about how far your impact travels and how much friction disappears when you are involved. At high levels, senior leaders don't look for people who can carry work. They consider promotions for people who change how work happens. They notice when escalation slows down, when decisions land more clearly, and when teams move with less anxiety because someone has taken real ownership. Now, one of the clearest indicators of strong scope is surprisingly simple. By the time someone's title changes, their day barely does. That tells everyone involved that the organization has already been relying on them at the next level. In stricter environments, scope has to move beyond your immediate team. For example, another group might adopt your approach, or a framework you created becomes the default. A messy cross-team issue becomes calmer because you've named the problem and created an achievable path through it. If you're unsure where you stand, look back at the last month. Ask yourself whether your work changed how other teams operated, or whether it mostly cleared your own list. While both are valuable, only one consistently leads to a promotion. If you want to build scope deliberately, focus on your energy. Take ownership of one cross-team problem that already has senior attention. Create something reusable rather than heroic. Make another leader safer by helping them navigate a decision they've been avoiding. Story is how your thinking moves through the organization when you're not present to explain it. Promotion rooms reward clarity, not detail. They trust people who can frame reality in a way that makes the next step obvious, especially when the situation is complicated and the incentives are pulling in different directions. Strong story shows up when people leave conversations knowing what decision is on the table, what the trade-offs are, and what you recommend. It shows up when your language gets reused and when leaders rely on you to define success rather than simply report progress. A useful test is to notice what happens after you speak. If nothing changes, the signal's weak. If behavior shifts, even slightly, the signal is strengthening. One practice that works consistently is deceptively simple. Before any update, write down the real problem you're trying to solve, the viable options, and the recommendation you believe the organization should make. Then say the decision request out loud. Over time, that habit changes how people experience your presence. Now, spine shows up when the work stops being clean. Ambiguity, incomplete data, competing priorities, and political tension are not edge cases at senior levels. They are the environment. Promotion rooms watch closely to see how you operate when there's no obvious right answer. To be clear, a strong spine doesn't look like forcefulness or certainty theater. It looks like steady judgment. Your assumptions state openly, and you're able to name the trade offs honestly. Decisions owned end to end, even when the outcome's imperfect. Your assumptions stated openly, and you're able to name the trade offs honestly. Decisions owned end to end, even when the outcome's imperfect. A common signal leak here happens. Talented people, especially those who've been rewarded for precision, sometimes wait too long for permission in moments that require a call. At higher levels, that hesitation creates doubt even when the intent is responsible. Now, building spine does require practice. Here's how you can start. Make smaller, reversible decisions sooner. Make sure you can say what you're assuming, then name the downside you're accepting. When something goes wrong, take ownership cleanly and move the group forward without spiraling or deflecting. That predictability lowers risk in promotion discussions. If you want to test this in a concrete way, here's the experiment I recommend. For the next 30 days, the goal is no longer to optimize yourself for high level visibility. Your new goal is to optimize your work for defensibility. In the first week, focus on scope, one cross team issue that already matters to senior leaders, and make it visibly better. In the second week, focus on story. Structure every update around a decision and pay close attention to whether your framing starts to travel. In the third week, focus on spine. Take ownership of one ambiguous call you've been postponing, state your assumptions, and stand behind the outcome. In the final week, integrate all three. And then at the end of the month, ask your manager a single question. When my name comes up in promotion discussions, what evidence do you point to first? Now, listen carefully to the answer. It will tell you which signal is strongest and which one still needs work. Okay, so before you go, here's what I want you to remember. Promotion decisions don't reward effort in isolation. They reward clarity, judgment, and trust that already exists before your title changes. Once you start paying attention to the signals decision rooms rely on, the process is no longer feeling random and starts to feel workable. Now, you don't need to overhaul everything at once. Over time, you'll notice that the conversation around you changes even when you're not in the room. If this video has helped you see things more clearly, like the video and subscribe. And if you're navigating a promotion decision right now, take a moment after this video and write down one place where you can make the decision easier for people above you. That's where progress usually starts. See you soon.